Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the MLB podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pizzapia. With me today is a very special guest. He's another Italian from New York, just like me. If you think I've got energy off the chart, not even close to our guest today. It's John Laghezza from the Mayo Media Network. You know him on Twitter at MLB Moving Average. He is one of the great minds who's moving the game forward, which I have loved about him for years. We've been DMing for years, literally years. And I'm so excited to have him as our guest of our show today, because today we're going to be breaking down all of the infielders. We're going to do the infield preview today. We're going to go through our must-haves, our busts, our late sleepers, and the good value pickups too in those salary cap leagues that you're playing in. We're going to go position by position and give you the names, have a little spirited debate as always. But John, you're really important nowadays. FSWA, nominated for Baseball Article of the Year. Look at you. You're working with my buddy Pat Mayo. What's it like to be a rock star nowadays in the baseball world?
I'm a pretty big deal. Oh my, I can't even believe I had the gusto to make that joke. Joe, I am just absolutely honored to be here. Not only yourself, Fantasy Pros is a gold standard in the industry. I mean, half that stuff you said about me is made up, but thank you. You know, the FSWA award is not, but the rest of it just might be. Listen to me long enough, you'll probably find out for yourself. Thank you so much, Joe. I really do appreciate it, man. I've respected you from day one. And if, you know, in football, there are coaching trees. If there are analyst trees, I really hope, and this is the biggest comment I could give you. I saved it from off air. I hope I'm considered under your own, because you made it cool to do this. You made it cool to not have to fit the mold to make your own, you know.
Thank you, man. That's very, very kind of you. And like I said, I know you and I have chatted for many years, since the first time we've ever done a show together. And I've watched you work at different places and build up from literally nothing. And I love that. That's how I started too, you know. I got, worked for a couple websites that folded. And next thing you know, I said, I'm going to go write a book. And that was the Black Book and how that all happened. And you're one of those guys, too, just from scratch. And I've got so much respect for those people, especially because I feel like you're of the same mind of me, which is we have to continue to evolve the game of baseball. And it's a good thing to start looking at things differently. You've got some incredible models that you work with, incredible numbers person, but also you're an incredible pragmatist, which I love, too. Where you're talking about, hey, there's got to be a better way to do some things, which is what I always push to. So, talk to me about that a little bit before we get going, too. Like, what are the things for you in terms of fantasy baseball in 2022 that you'd like to see move forward? I know you talk so much about, the quality start and evolving that and getting rid of the win. So talk to me about some of that stuff that you're working on right now.
Okay, just briefly, I would say that's probably it. I start as a point league player. You and I both have backgrounds in points and roto, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love point leagues. There's nothing like rooting on a Sunday in May that otherwise might not be that exciting in roto, and I think that's fine. Roto is exciting, and Fab is great, but you really have a league-determining factor going on a Sunday in May, and point leagues can be awesome, and that's really where it started. You have to award, accomplishments, let's call them wins or quality starts. The quality start, especially on its baseline, 6 innings pitched and 3 runs allowed, is a 4 or 5 ERA, which is kind of hard to reward. Then wins are wonky as it is. And I just kind of tried to push it forward. And I think that's what we can do with our scoring. I also use power rankings in my head-to-head league, which weights to overall score. It's a 1/3 element of all play, so you play everyone in the league. And then H2H. So at the end of the year, there is no arguing that anyone lucked into a playoff spot. And I think that's what you and I have always been simpatico on, right?
Yeah,
just trying to do better.
Yeah. Right. Well, trying to understand that, the season-long aspect matters. And yes, the pitfall of head-to-head is that when you're playing head-to-head, you sort of lose out a little bit of the, my team performed really well and I just lost out, but I was the second best team in the league this week. So that's a little discouraging. But if you take the hybrid model, which I push in the Black Book this year, which is what I play in my home league, which is where it's a combination. You all play in head-to-head points, but you're able to weight everything properly, and everything has a value, just like in real baseball. A single has a value, a stolen base has a value. But a stolen base shouldn't be the same as a home run, because a home run creates a run. A stolen base just advances a runner, and that's the kind of stuff that I get hung up on the old school roto, and I just keep getting hung up on it, and I want to bring back the casual fans, and John and I are going to help them today and talk about some exciting names and go through some stuff. Before we do, I want to remind everybody too, don't forget, if you want to get in on some of these great discussions and be one of our peanuts and cracker jacks over in our Discord, because our baseball channel is off the charts, is some fantastic human beings, and I do not say that lightly. I mean fantastic people in there. FantasyPros.com/chat. You can join for free. Premium subscribers, though, do get access to tons of the extra channels, including the AMAs. So I'll be on there doing probably weekly AMAs with everybody, talking about their teams, working through trades, working through situations. And that's over on our Discord at fantasypros.com/chat. Plus, you could join us every day when the season starts, whenever that is, over on our YouTube channel at our Fantasy Pros MLB channel. It's different from our regular one, but make sure you subscribe there. And don't forget to fantasypros.com/draftwizard, the draft assistant with Sync. It is fantastic. Our draft assistant with Sync provides pick suggestions for your live online draft in real time. It works with the most popular league sites like Yahoo, ESPN, CBS Sports, and even it's a drafts interface that is just unbelievable in terms of the simulator. So it's easy to use. Only our MVP and Hall of Fame subscribers can access it, though. So please subscribe today if you haven't already, and check out the draft assistant at fantasypros.com/draftwizard. Now, John, let's kick things off here with the first baseman, and let's talk about first our must-have guy. And if you're watching our YouTube channel right now, you'll see John's first must-have guy is actually not a pinstripe guy, because he's got the Yankee background, he's got the pinstripes on today. It's actually a guy from across town that you're going to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, it's Pete Alonso, and I think this is a best-case scenario for a hitter like Alonso. So he's not only a great player, but we've seen very strong gains, particularly as far as discipline goes. And if anyone is curious, I really get granular on the Mayo Media Network. We actually break down Pete Alonso. You could just type in Cork stats, it'll come right up. And when you combine not only, Joe, a lack of Ks, he's replaced it with a higher contact rate. And we know the contact rate is phenomenal. When guys like Pete Alonso hit the ball, really good things happen. This is a player who was going in the second round. And yes, that might have been a touch overbought because he was still pegged to that K rate. If you're into the rolling chart stuff and a lot of trend changes that, like I am, it's undeniable. The ceiling is MVP for Pete Alonso, because if you could get a 275, 285 average, this guy's already shown you 50 home runs. If he starts to show elite plate discipline, the sky is quite literally the limit. I mean, he could be the MVP.
Well, that was the thing in the minor leagues with Pete Alonso. He was a better all-around hitter, and they got to the big leagues, and I think he was chasing that rookie home run record, and he got a little home run happy, and I think it kind of affected some things in the negative for him, but I agree with you. Like, it's good to see him get back to more of that version of himself that was in the minor league system for the Mets, because I think if you're the Mets right now, you want that overall package hitter. I think it's more productive for you, especially if they start to bring and surround him with some better talent. I think Lindor will bounce back this year, and bringing in Marte, they can have more guys on base, so you want to certainly continue to drive those guys in, and you can't do that with strikeouts. You got to put the ball in plate in order to do that. For me, my must-have guy is a guy that I just love every single year. His 162 game average since he came in the league in 2014, 33 home runs, 115 RBI, 89 runs scored, a 290 batting average, and an 865 OPS. He's Jose Abreu. Yeah. I know that the average was down a little last year. Oh boy. Oh no, it was 261. Whatever will we do? Last time he hit 265 was in 2018, then he bounced back in 2019 at 284, and then in 2020 in the short season hit 317. This guy hits on the road, he hits at home, he hits lefties, he hits righties, he hits in the first half, the second half. He just hits, and he's going in ADP after Pete Alonso. So for me, first base has got some big-time sluggers at the top, but if I end up waiting a little bit and I come away with a Jose Abreu, I am very happy about that. So he's my must-have guy for me. But let's flip the script here, John. Let's talk about first baseman that we think might be a bust potentially in 2022 that we're trying to avoid.
All right, well, I think there's kind of a cheapish answer, so I gave you a half answer in Max Muncy. It hasn't even been determined he's going to play. I'm especially worried about that type of injury, and even more so when it's not addressed. And they just kind of came out of nowhere. I'm like, well, by the way, we might need surgery on this, which would be a season ender. So I think anytime a player has I don't want to call it a strong probability, but if we're drafting a player at that place, there should be no probability of a zero. So I have Muncy on my no draft list, so he'd be the potential bust. I don't know if injuries was a cop-out. By probably the more proper answer to the question is DJ LeMahieu. And again, as a Yankee, I hope this speaks to this is not a subjective exercise for me. This is a numbers exercise. Of
course.
And
always.
I got money to win, got to keep the lights on, got a very pretty wife, I got to keep happy, And I was a little low on LeMahieu in the first place for this game of ours, Joe, where we want power and we want steals. He's not particularly fast, and he's not really a power hitter. So it's hard to ask for more than we've seen. And now that 2019, with a few people I think may come up today, looking more and more like the power outlier, it's hard to knock LeMahieu, the pure hitter. But I think the expectations for the combo meals have just pushed him to a point where that price is not palatable. He could fail. I think he's a very good plate appearance source. So if you're playing draft and holds, he gets a push up. All the eligibility is a good thing. He's a Yankee, so he's a good person, right? Isn't that how it works? But it's just, I think the expectations categorically are high.
I remember Jose Canseco played for the Yankees for a short period.
So here's your proof. Thank you for that.
There you go.
Here's your proof. All right, good.
It's funny, and we did not compare our lists ahead of time, but no. DJ LeMahieu was actually my guy too, because especially if you're playing him as a first baseman, I don't like that concept. Yeah. And this kind of comes back to this thing where, you do all the research on a player, and I remember not liking DJ LeMahieu when he first went to the Yankees, saying, look, the road numbers weren't very good, and then all of a sudden he had this transcendent season, and everybody lost their mind, and I thought, wow, I could not believe how wrong I was, but I will take the L. I was wrong on that. And then he started to come back recently to being the DJ LeMahieu that I thought he was going to be. So maybe it was just a factor of the league really didn't see him. They thought they could challenge him, or they would just rather challenge him than some of the other guys like the Stantons and the Judges of the world. And then they realized, you know what? We got to challenge this guy. This is the guy we got to get out, because solo home runs are fine. We can't let this guy keep getting on base. And I feel like you saw that huge adjustment to his game. And I know he dealt with some injuries and some things like that too, but for me, LeMahieu was actually that guy also. And it's like the Dallas Keuchel year. I remember one year I said, this guy's just not special. It's not like he's going to win the Cy Young. And then he won the Cy Young the next year. And I had to eat it. And then after that, he was never the same guy. And that happens in baseball. Davey Johnson one year hit 40 home runs. That guy never came anywhere close to that in his career. There's certain guys that have these incredible outlier seasons that you look back and go, how did that happen? But I think LeMahieu kind of fits that role, and I don't like him by comparison to the player pool at first base. That's where I struggle with him. So that's our communal bust here. We actually agreed on that one. Give me a late sleeper, a guy that you think is going late in drafts that really could be a win, whether it be a first baseman or as a corner guy.
Okay, my late sleeper, and I think you said the magic word off air to me, and it was nuance, Joe. And I think as we go through these sleepers, people notice that they come in at different wavelengths. They're going to come at different parts of the board. Lateness is determined by the depth of that position. First base, I believe, is pretty deep, so this one is going to be deeper than some of the other ones. So I just wanted to clear that out, and I'm taking you to Yoshi's Island. We're talking ADP 334 for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Check it out, Joe. He had a very strong 2021 in the minors, 868 OPS. He had a 3% K- walk. That's excellent. That's a sign of discipline, even in a very small sample, which is what you want to see. And in those 42 games with the Pirates, which, he moved around a lot. So sometimes I do buy into the movement thing. Getting settled means something for me, as something you preach also. Baseball is it's a routine thing. So 268, 8 homers, 20 runs, and 25 ribbies in 40 games. I mean, you can't just necessarily multiply by 4, but if you did, that'd be pretty good. That's 32 homers, 80 runs, and 100 ribbies. Plus, he showed that 10% walk rate, 134 WRC plus. There's no one standing in his way. He's going to at least get a shot to compete. So I think you draft him knowing that it's a quick cut if he looks terrible. But take me to Yoshi's Island. And when you have, more importantly, I think the way, also, Joe, I'm a fan, because application is the name of the game. Right. Not just, how do we apply this? Wait on the corner, because knowing that you have a piece like that for corner or UT can help you shape those decisions earlier on.
Well, for Yoshi Satsugo, when I watch him play in Japan, I like the oppo power he had. And, sometimes you don't see that all the time from the lefty hitters. Sometimes the lefties get a little pull happy, but I like that. And even when you watch him play in the WBC, you could see, I was like, this guy's got some oppo power and stuff like that. And I felt, Tampa's never a good place for anybody to prove themselves as a hitter. Like that's just never going to be a good case. And it feels like, Pittsburgh might be one of these teams that, from a fantasy perspective, really sneaks up on you on value. I understand they're going to lose a lot of games. Yep. But if Aniel Cruz plays well, Mason and I were just talking about him on the last show. If you get, Brian Reynolds is a fantastically underrated player, right?
Hayes is healthy.
Right. And you all of a sudden, Brian Hayes is healthy. All of a sudden, you got a bunch of guys here that might really be quietly productive and incredibly cheap in drafts, because people are just, they're out on the bad team, which is, again, they're still going to score some runs.
And isn't that a piece of Pia Classic, the bad team?
Oh,
biased?
Yeah.
Bad team bias is real, people. Yeah.
It is, and it's funny because yes, they're still, they're going to lose a lot of games, but can they still score some runs? Can they get you fantasy points? The answer is yes. It's not like football where it's so dependent on the good quarterback play to put points up. It's not. These are individuals. It's a totally different thing. The ecosystem, that thing doesn't exist in the same fashion of baseball. It's just not the same thing.
Yeah.
And then for me, this guy's going as the 21st first baseman, which I can't even fathom why. And it's a player I didn't love going into last year. In fact, Ariel Cohn and I had a huge argument about this guy last year, and it's Joey Votto. I was completely done with Joey Votto, but the dude was unbelievable in the second half last year. I felt like he personally trolled me for the entire stretch run of whatever that June, July was, where he was just unconscious. He ended up with 36 home runs, 99 RBI. I don't need him to repeat that. But as a corner guy, if he gives me 20 home runs or 25 home runs, somewhere in that range, and 75 and 80 or something like that, that's pretty good in terms of the value for corner guys. So I'm going to take that as a late sleeper. And I think it's funny because you picked a guy who's a 30-year-old, guy who's bounced around a little bit. I've picked a guy who's, 110 years old, and Joey Votto. Sleepers come in all different shapes and sizes. It doesn't necessarily mean the young player, and I think that's good that we're talking about some of those guys. Let's move over to the salary cap leagues. Give me a guy that you think is going to come at a good dollar amount that you think is going to be useful at the first base position this year.
Excellent, and the argument will be very easy because I already made it, and it's Bobby Dalback for the Red Sox. And I think really the lesson here is, again, we always need perspective and nuance. We have to be very careful with season-long stats, and even with half stats, be careful. So we want to be looking for trend changes and improvements. The disciplinary metrics for Bobby Dalback took huge steps forward, and he also kind of showed that in his minor league career. If you look at that game log on Fangraphs, you'll see his second chance at a league, right, at a promotion, let's call it. Mm-hmm. He dropped the K rate 8, 10, 12%. Then he had this conversation with Kyle Schwarber. Again, I know, Joe, I am a numbers guy, but sometimes these things matter. This was well covered by Todd Zola and others in the industry, that Schwarber had a sit down with Dalback, and they made some changes. Check it out from this day. Check it out from the day, because it was in early August. So after the Schwarber meeting, Bobby Dalback bat 292 batting average. He had a better than 1,000 OPS, a 436 WOBA, 176 WRC plus. The K rate was 28%. But if you expand on that to the trends in the rolling average, there are points where it's a very bearish channel. Mm-hmm. And if these are real gains, again, the piece of here in me is coming out. These are real people. The growth is not linear. Stop thinking the box score. The past is not the future. Adjustments and maturity and hard work matter. So I listen to your stuff because I'm here repeating it, because it is the important stuff. But that's what I see in Bobby Dalback. We know the environment is fantastic. We know he's going to face bad pitching. So what could be better, again, than a guy in the 200s?
And he's going to give you power, which is the thing you're drafting him for. So everything else is a bonus.
Yep.
So if you're just putting the price tag on him for the power, you're going to get that. Yep. But maybe there's another gear. Right.
Can you imagine if you got a plus average, not just a 240, this isn't a sinkhole, or even a 260.
If he had 275, I'd dance a jig.
Yeah, it's a win. It's a win.
260 is fun.
Correct.
All
right.
A win. For me, the guy that I love in the salary cap format is Jared Walsh.
Okay.
Jared Walsh to me is a guy, if you look at the small sample of 2020, you saw a guy who started to blossom last year. 277, 340, 509 slash. He had 29 home runs, 98 RBI. The guy was hitting 34 doubles. When you get into that 30 doubles, 30 home runs, and nobody's talking about you, that's the thing. I feel like nobody's talking about Jared Walsh, and he's the 12th first baseman off the board. So basically, at the end of the day, is Jared Walsh going to put up a season close to Paul Goldschmidt? I think the answer might be yes. Is Goldschmidt going to go probably for a $10 premium at least over him? Probably off name brand recognition. And I think that's the thing to keep in mind. And he is going to be 28 years old. So you're just scratching the surface of how good Walsh can be. And imagine with a healthy Trout for a whole season, with Ohtani, with Trout in that lineup. Who knows? Maybe Anthony Rendon, fingers crossed. Who knows with that guy? Spoiler, we'll talk about him later.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's another thing. Imagine how good Jared Walsh could potentially be with even more support. So those are the guys at first base for us. Let's move on to second base. Give me your must-have dude at second base.
I kind of had a tie here. I hope it didn't come off as a cop-out, though these two players really have been very much aligned in draft talk and discussions everywhere because of the similarities they offer you categorically, and the price point is there, and it's Jonathan India and or Jorge Polanco. I don't think you can go wrong with either of them. Joe, I think it's a bit of that bias again. People are not quite buying into India yet. They're not quite buying into what Polanco did, but all the underpinning statistics are there. These two guys are very good. They're both going to be at the top of the lineup, if not leading off. They're both young. Everything's in place for these guys to produce, and where they go to get 5 category contributions in Roto or even nice OPSs in point leagues. I think they're both really viable. I like them both a lot.
Polanco is actually my guy for my salary value.
With good
because
reason.
Again, same thing. Can the guy give you good stats across the board? And is he going to come at a much cheaper cost than the other guys? Yeah. And to me, when you're in those salary cap leagues, it's all about the ROI. Like, what stats am I getting for the price tag? And it's great to pay a premium for premium stats, but you got to be real careful about those things. And then if you're going to do that, you got to find some of the values. So Polanco's one guy for me, so we can kind of cross him off on both of those lists on both ends for us. And India, I don't understand why people aren't buying in. It's like, did they not watch? I understand the beginning was wretched, but once he corrected himself and got his footing, the guy was tremendous, John.
Yeah, I don't know. And you notice I keep bringing up disciplinary metrics because, Joe, I believe nothing is fully in control, right? But I believe that that's one of the things that is mostly in the control of the hitter when they decide to offer or not. And those metrics on a young kid are excellent. 11% walk rate, 11% K- walk. His chase rate was 25% with a 9% swinging strike rate. Those are easily in the top 5th percentile of the entire league. That's like Juan Soto type control.
Right.
That you don't throw that stuff around lightly. So where I'm going at is when we're looking for more in the future, those are the kind of statistics that open the door to the high average and more on base because he's so very good at it. He doesn't chase at garbage, and the environment is great for India. I mean, the Great American Small Park plays excellent for those hitters. So for him, I love that pick. He feels like he could be going several rounds earlier.
Look, I'm with you. I don't say anything because I love the value I'm getting in right now.
Don't put it on a podcast.
Yeah, well, just this is only for our listeners, not for the people we all draft against. But again, I don't understand that. India's going as a 13th second baseman off the board at FantasyPros.com. And if you want to see the expert consensus rankings, you can go to FantasyPros.com/ranks and check them out there over on the MLB side. And look, they're right there for you. He's going behind guys like Tommy Edmund and Jazz Chisholm in ADP. I mean, that's madness in early ADP. I mean, I don't see that at all. My must-have, maybe you'll see this as a cop-out, but, I don't think we're talking about enough of how good of a season Ozzie Albies just had. I feel like it gets lost in transition, and I feel a little bit sort of, too, maybe people are a little afraid with the Freddie Freeman situation still being undecided. I get that. If Freeman's gone and Acuna is not there to start the season, I can understand where people are coming from. But 30 home runs, 20 stolen bases, and over 100 runs and 100 RBI. Look, man, I mean, we just did the mock draft. Justin Mason took him, I think, with the 12th pick overall or the 13th overall pick there. Fine. He was at the turn.
That's fine.
I think it's exactly it. It's a tough position. That's the dude as far as I'm concerned. Who is not the dude for you at second base? Who
is not the dude? You actually mentioned him. I don't know if you know this. I am the Northeastern Quadrant president of the Miles Straw fan club.
Oh, are you?
So part of that is slandering Tommy Edmund, our political opposition. No, it's Tommy Edmund, and it's for a lot of the same reasons. Again, in Roto, which we mentioned, listen, you either play it or you don't, and it disproportionately weights steals. So we definitely be careful what kind of steals we're paying for. My problem I actually think Edmund and Straw is a fantastic comp. Edmund is going first. The problem with Edmund is not just the 700 OPS. Straw has the same. We know Zimmerman has done that study on it. That is when you start to be in jeopardy of losing your position. My problem here is not that Edmund is not going to lose his job. The defense is very good. The problem is the on-base skills, where Straw gets on base, and with all the other great contact metrics, he has a double-digit walk rate. Tommy Edmund has a 5% walk rate and a 300 OBP, opposed to the 350 OBP of Straw. So I won't mention Straw anymore, but that is the difference with a guy that bats leadoff and maybe doesn't hit for power and has a low OPS. Remember, OPS could be a function of no power. Give me the no power with a 350 OBP and 30 steals and whatever. He didn't even play that much with Cleveland at the point. So that's my problem with Edmund, is that I believe his lineup spot may be in jeopardy. That team is very good, unlike the Guardians. Cleveland, St. Louis, I should say, is going to be competing, and they're kind of top heavy, right? So they want to get Arenado's got to get at bats, and Goldschmidt's got to get at bats. Tyler O'Neill has to get at bats. They're going to be looking to get Dylan Carlson at bats. So if Edmund is not getting on, I think he keeps his job, but I think he gets moved back. And remember, he took him 700 plate appearances to get those 30 steals. Hard to project 700 PA show, something I've heard you say. No, so it's hard. It's hard to do that. So add in a lineup shift, potentially, those steals may not be as bankable as you think.
In early ADP, he's going as the 12th second baseman off the board, which I think is way too early. Yeah. Now, in drafts and mocks that I've done so far, he's not going ahead of some of the guys that are going after him. Like, it's just not. Okay, so maybe I'm just playing with sharper people, which is most likely. Yeah. But if you look at it, like, if I can get him at the right cost, I'll take Edmund, especially in roto leagues for the steals. But you like the dual eligibility, but you're bringing up a lot of good points. To me, I'm not anti-Edmund. I'm Edmund in his place, but so far that place for me, at least in the early ADP consensus over on FantasyPros, I ain't there yet. Yeah. Here's one that's going to upset a lot of people. You and I are going to piss some people off today, Johnny boy.
I like
this
that.
Is my kind of show. How about the guy that I'm afraid of, Javier Baez? Look, you're going from Chicago to New York to Detroit. Yep. And I know last year you had 31 bombs and he had 18 steals. I get that. But let's not forget, in 2020, the guy hit 203. Yep. Let's not forget, there's been times in this guy's career as such a free swinger. He is certainly a personality. There's going to be a lot of young guys coming through, a lot of growing pains around him in this lineup. I always hate the guys on mega contracts in first years, especially on bad teams, because I feel like it's a lot to ask. It's one thing when you have lineup protection like Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor and guys like that. I mean, Miguel Cabrera is a shadow of what he once was. Akil Baddoo's a nice player. Torkelson, Green. These are all guys that are, we hope are going to be something. Yeah. But they ain't there yet. So I struggle with Baez right now. And it's not that I wouldn't draft him, but you and I know we both play in points leagues, and for those guys, sometimes, that those strikeouts will absolutely murder all the good production that they do. So I'm out on him. Let's give me a late sleeper at second base. Who's a name for you?
Okay, who do I got late? Second base sleeper. I have Colton Wong for the Brewers, and my analysis here is actually pretty simple. The Steamer 600 for Wong is he's going to bat 265 with 14 homers and 16 steals atop a really good lineup. He bats leadoff every single day. That lineup is really much improved. We're going to get to that in a touch also. So to me, I think he's really provided that oasis for me, Joe, again, knowing the back of the pool that lets me know. That's why I'm off. I don't want Edmund. I'd much rather have Wong. I might even rather have Wong, like apples to apples. He's a great candidate if he stays in the field. Wong is a very good candidate for 95 runs, which shouldn't be undersold. Right. And if you get a BA that's 265 or better with 15 and 15, hey man, at the price 190, I think he's going. I love that. So that I'm circling Wong everywhere as again that oasis for even middle infield. That's a nice middle infield spot.
Yeah, consensus ADP is at 200. NFBC is at 187.
Yeah.
He's going as second baseman number 24 off the board on FantasyPros. And let me tell you, man, that's a great value as your middle infield guy. You're going to get some stolen bases, a little bit of pop, like you said, some runs scored. So you got to love that. For me, my late round guy is Brennan Rogers. Brennan Rogers, it's Colorado. I mean, do we need to say more than that? This guy is a good prospect. He's going to hit. He showed you last year, 101 games at 15 home runs, 284 batting average. I mean, I'm not a big extrapolator. I think that's the most dangerous game to play.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be a genius to know in Colorado, this guy's going to hit 20 bombs, which is going to be great as a middle infield position there. He's going to drive in runs. He's going to score runs. The batting average is going to get inflated a little bit, even if he struggles on the road. So overall, you're good. That's it. I mean, it's simple as that. Brennan Rogers, I think, has been a prospect so long that people forget how much talent he has, and we're finally getting to see it after waiting and waiting, and now it's almost like the post-type sleeper, but he delivered, so I don't know why nobody cares except me. I feel like I'm the only one who does. So, yeah, Brennan Rogers to me is a no-brainer. I already talked about my salary cap value guy is Polanco. Who's your salary cap value guy at second base?
Man, I'm just serving up heaping helpings of vanilla ice cream here, Joe. And you know what? Sometimes it's fine because not all vanilla ice cream is made the same, right? Sometimes there's that stuff that's like liquid that they pour in a machine, and sometimes it's like slow churned vanilla bean. So
hey, man, I like the crazy ice cream that comes out of the machine. I like the soft serve ice cream.
You know what's funny? That was not the example I wanted.
Give me a swirl in a helmet any day, and ice cream tastes better in a helmet, no matter what anybody tells me.
Yeah, always I used a bad example. You know which vanilla I hate? The one that has the crystals on it that's been in the freezer.
Oh, no,
so that's the one. Good. So hopefully,
the vanilla bean with the little flexive thing. I don't like the little flex. I don't know why.
Oh, with the stuff. Well, okay, it depends. Well, all right. Well, next week's episode we'll go more granular into vanilla and how it shaped me as a human. No, so my pick is Jonathan Scope. Again, I think there's a lot of running themes here. If people haven't read between the lines with the show, is it's a lot easier to identify these values on worse teams. Because they just don't get the attention. The bad team narrative is real. So give me Scope. He has been so consistent. Again, for Roto, you're getting that all-important batting average, right? Everyday plate appearances, a solid average. He is a bit aggressive, but you do get a better than 87% in-zone contact rate. So he puts the stick on the ball, and he's hit at least 21 home runs in every single season since, let's say, 2015 or 2016. You could just pencil him in. And later on, that is a really nice kind of luxury to have, even though it seems a little boring. But 21 homers, maybe a couple chip-in steals, I shouldn't even say palatable in this day and age. 275, 280 is a very good batting average. And if you get 170 combined runs and ribbies, 85, 85, however you want to chalk it up, it's a value. It just is a value. I think people are just not enamored. Right, the lack of ceiling, and I think that's fair. He's not going to hit 30
but you know
bombs.
what? He is what he is, and what he is productive and cheap.
Agreed. Thank
you. It's a good combination. And it's taking everything in my being not to make the Scope of vanilla ice cream joke, but I think I just did.
We did.
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
A lot of dad in this room. Very much. Lots of dad.
Tip your waitress. All right, let's go to. Let's go to shortstop here. Give me your must-have guys at the shortstop position this year.
Oh man, Joey, I'm having so much fun, man. Bless you. Thank you so much.
It's supposed to be fun. Fantasy's supposed to be fun. Everyone forgets that. You get to be smart and fun. It's fine. It's okay.
My must is TA12, man. Give me Tim Anderson everywhere. I don't know if this is going to get some heat. I don't know. He's not too dissimilar from Bo Bichette, really. I mean, Tim Anderson is everything you're looking for in a baseball player. And if you're into swagger as a category, he's a 6-category player.
I am.
But obviously, kind of goes what I was saying on this episode. But it's everything you could want, right? It's all the context. It's all the environment you could ask for. They're a really good baseball team on the rise. They're very deep. And he runs and he hits for power. And you get a 300 average that could potentially come with the 650 plate appearances. So average matters more when you're talking about those high-end plate appearance guys. So he's afloat just across the board. TA will not hurt you. I think even though he's going high, sometimes his values can be in the third round, right, Joe? I mean, if we think he should be going, I don't see why he should be going in the second or even the early. I guess I've seen him sneak up early third, but Anderson, I want on every team. He can't hurt you.
No, I love Anderson. A player, I think that because he plays on the team with all these other great guys, he becomes a victim of he doesn't get enough publicity because he plays with Abreu and Robert and Eloy Jimenez and all these guys who, off the charts, big time talents, and Tim Anderson is a great talent, like you're saying. He gives you everything you could possibly ask for. For me, my must-have guy, and this is going to get controversial here in a second, I can tell you, is Juan De Franco. Everybody knows I'm a Juan De Franco guy. This goes back a couple years. I saw him play live. I watched him play. And I've been playing baseball a long time, watching baseball a very long time. I know the goods when I see the goods. This guy's the goods. And it's not because of the hitting streak last year. It's not because of that. It's because I've seen this guy play and I know who he is. And when you see an organization like the Rays throw that kind of money on a player,
oh, go gaga. Yeah.
That tells you everything you know about a player. Like they know what they have. And the only way to make sure that they keep this guy for any period of time and not pay through the nose for what he's going to do to opposing pitchers for the next decade is to do what they just did, which is throw a ton of money at him. And look, I think it's actually going to end up being a cost savings by the time that contract's done, believe it or not. So I understand there's still growing pains. Sophomore slump can always be a thing. Juan De Franco is a special talent. I've been telling people that for 3 years now. Watched him play in person 2 years ago. It was magnificent, and I just feel like still, as much as I'm hyping him, he is still the 9th shortstop off the board. So to me, it's still pretty good value as far as I'm concerned, because I'd rather have Juan De Franco than Javier Baez. Hot take, I don't know. That's just where I'm at. So John, who was your bust at the shortstop position?
Well, I'm gonna disagree.
Good.
Maybe not to the same degree as it might seem at first, because my bust is Juan De Franco. But again, these are all contextualized arguments. So my argument has to do with cost in a fantasy league. Juan De Franco is incredible and on a very short list of players that I'd be looking to build a franchise around. So I think, I really want to lead with that, because there's no argument here from basically everything you said about the skill set. My problem application, when applied, especially under a cost lens, is the power expectations. So again, I know he's very young, he's only 20, and there's absolutely more power coming. But I think my problem is a matter of timing, because I need it now, right? If we're talking Dynasty, he might be one of the most desirable.
And you're right, maybe the power, especially in that ballpark, is the one thing where it might be underwhelming. It might be in the 20 range. And it's not going to be 30.
I'm struggling to get there. I'm at the projection system.
He's a stronger guy than you realize. It's like, do you remember when Lindor came up and everyone's like, this guy's never going to, but people were saying he's a doubles hitter. I remember people saying that. And then I remember watching an interview with Lindor, and he had no sleeve t-shirt on. And I saw the arms on this guy, and I went, holy crap, this guy's jacked, right? So he's different body types sometimes are deceiving. Jose Altuve was another guy. I've still got, where is he? Here, for everybody watching on the YouTube channel. This is from Ariel Cohn, who had to buy me this because he lost a bet to me that Jose Altuve would not hit 24 home runs again. And he got hurt, and he still did it that year.
That's right.
So he had to buy me this magical Game of Thrones Jose Altuve bobblehead.
So cool.
So, power comes in different body types. It comes in different waves. So although Juan De Franco doesn't look like Juan Soto necessarily, I do agree with you. The ballpark probably limiting. I think you can squeeze 20. I do. If he gives you 18, I think he's going to give you enough around the edges that you still like it. But I understand, there's still growth there. He's not going to jump into that Trout Soto range either.
Yeah, I think that's my worry. It's just the power expectations. And in fact, Joe, if you could guarantee me 20, I wouldn't be on this list. My worry is that
talk to me in 3 weeks. Let me see if we get spring training. We'll see. If we get spring training, I want to see what he looks like.
Right? He's never hit more than 14 home runs in a season.
Yeah, but he's like 12 years old.
I know.
He's still got to take his SATs. That's the thing. We're talking. And again, not everybody's built like Mike Trout, who looks like a running back in the NFL. The guy's just a brick. Same thing with Juan Soto. Some guys will come into it later in terms of the power. So that's why I'm curious to see what he shows up to spring training looking like. Too. But again, we can't do it. Anybody else, by the way, besides Juan De Franco, you think might be a bust?
Oh, you know what? I did have.
I think Marcus Semien was the guy that you were talking about, right?
I thought maybe that was low hanging fruit, and also, man, something that you talk about all the time is we're in the off season. Prices are moving, so there's fluctuations, and something we talk about all the time is not being so married to our priors that they let us, that they come to hurt us. Let's say they become a detriment, and Semien is that. So when Semien was going in the second round, or his expectation was, that was a bust. There's no way he's repaying that. Now the collective industry has kind of discarded him, and now he's hitting a point where I don't think he's a bust anymore if you get him in the 5th round. So it was weird. I was a little reticent to mention Semien because in a week or two, he might be on my value list because of the reaction he's garnering right now. I didn't think he could repeat it because of the environment shift. He won't be in Dunedin. There's a lot that says the stolen base efficiency, the barrel to home run efficiency. There's a lot of numbers there that say he's not going to repeat it. That being said, the guy plays every day and contributes. So he's worth something in fantasy leagues. We should not be. I feel like that's what's happened, Joe. I think that's what I mean to say is there's this. Oh, Semien is like a non-starter. No. If you see Semien in the 4th or 5th, there you can go from. I'm going to take him in the 2nd. Right. I don't.
You know what's going to happen? The casual leagues, he'll be inflated, and you won't want him. The quote unquote expert leagues or the the sharp leagues, he's going to go at a discount, possibly too much of a discount.
Yeah, I believe
and that's
that.
ironic. And I think that's the thing. It's those high-end leagues where you're going to get him cheaper, which is great.
Yeah,
and the casual leagues that just look back at last year and they're a little lazy, they'll go, oh, I want this guy. He's clearly a first-round talent. Look at those stats. Not necessarily. All right, let's go to a late sleeper at shortstop. What's the name you want to throw out there?
Okay, I have one that again is vanilla, and it's Miguel Rojas and the Marlins. You know, I wrote in my own note, running theme late. I'm looking for balance. The Steamer projections have a 266 batting average, 10 homers and 12 steals. 85% of his at-bats last year were in the top half of the lineup. 2/3 of them, Joe, were from the 1 or the 2. So that's not to oversimplify. Sometimes it's just a matter of opportunity. He has a track record of batting average and being a combo guy. There's not a lot of threat for the lineup spot. So I think he's a very good draft and see what happens guy. I didn't know if that was too vanilla, so I went a little bit deeper into the pool, and it was Bryson Stott. So this is the Philadelphia Phillies prospect, and I'm going to end this with a question of yours because I'm really a question for you because I'm very curious. We have a guy like Stott. The market is extremely high on. He has tore up the minor leagues. I talked about this the other day. I don't think he's ever posted a sub 130 WRC plus at any stop. He's phenomenal. He's also very good friends with Bryce Harper. I know this sounds dumb, but they vacation together, and they're like they post pictures vacationing together. Harper has been very vocal about how great Stott is and how important he's going to be to the team. So he's a very valuable dynasty piece. My problem is people are drafting him before Didi Gregorius, who is under contract for $14 million.
Right.
So I'm worried about drafting Stott to a starting lineup. I've been drafting him on draft and hold teams to my bench. I'm not depending on at-bats. I'm getting – it's funny, if you want to see my application, Joe, I draft Stott as my MI, come back and draft Rojas later and stick him in the MI.
Right,
hopefully he'll keep the bed warm until Stott comes up if he does. So my question for you is –
actually.
Yeah, my question for you is – how do you approach the Stott v. Gregorius is a very good theoretical.
Well, money talks. And $14 million is a lot of money. So unless somebody's going to come to the Phillies and, you know, that's the thing without spring training, you know, you have these injuries and somebody goes, well, you know, maybe we can peel Gregorius away. You know, $14 million is a lot, but we have this need. Didi's still a useful player. He's probably not the player he was. But I'm with you. I think you take Stott late. I think in best ball leagues and things like that, it's a great pick. I love the pick there. But I think when you factor in questionable in redraft leagues, when you factor in the question of playing time and the question of the guy ahead of him making a lot of money, and it's a team that thinks it's going to compete, those are a lot of factors where I think Stott might have more value as a trade chip at some point than necessarily delivering. He might be a player you draft and then drop and then pick up again. Like he feels like that kind of guy, but you bring up a lot. He's a name to know at the very least, especially in the deeper leagues. A guy I'm throwing out there is Jonathan VR. I don't know where he's going to land, but he's going to land someplace, and wherever he lands, he's going to steal 25, 30 bases. I don't care what it is. It's just going to be the thing. If you're looking for cheap steals late, Jonathan VR right now, because he doesn't have a home, is a free square. Go get him. Go take him. All right, let's look for a value guy on the shortstop side. Who you got in terms of value, John?
So we mentioned it before, and it was an excellent segue, and it was the batting eye in Tampa Bay. So I'm referring to Willy Adames. Now, I am a numbers guy. I'm not so much for narratives, but when we have a thesis, Joe, as long as we should test it, right? So check this out. The idea was Adames struggled with the batting eye in Tampa. His career at home while with the Rays, 219 batting average, 31% K, 624 OPS, a 77 WRC plus. Well, if he hated the batting eye there, he'd be good on the road. Well, on the road, he bat 291, 28% K, 858 OPS, a 130 WRC plus. This is a career as a Ray. Keep those numbers in mind. Keep the number 858 and 130 in mind. He went to Milwaukee, Joe, 285 batting average, 886 OPS, 135 WRC plus. The move, the player we saw in Milwaukee really seems to reflect that narrative of struggles with the batting eye. I do not like subjective narratives. But there's quite a bit of data that suggests this. Right? I mean, those are very stark differences. 77 to 130 WRC plus is tremendous, 65 points of batting average. And then with Milwaukee, he did that and with both sides. So just away from Tampa, right? Those stats could have just been away from Tampa. He's a totally different person. He looks great. And at one point, he was a very highly touted prospect. So I'm really all aboard on Adames. He's a testament to how deep shortstop is. Yeah.
Well, you and I are like mind. That's my guy as well. The power is legit. you bring up a great point. He was a big-time prospect, and he moves to a place in Milwaukee, which is one of the most power-friendly environments you're going to find out there. So I'm so excited about Hunter Renfroe moving there this year. I said, oh, what a wonderful place for him to land, right? We got to love that. So Adams and I, actually John and I are the same on Willie Adams as our salary cap value guy. Let's shift gears over to third base. My must-have guy is a guy that's going, I think, too cheap right now. It's like, again, another phenomenal talent that I feel like I have to shake people a little bit and say, hey, don't you remember Alex Bregman's really, really good at baseball? I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't understand what's happening to him in the market. But the market right now, he's the 8th third baseman off the board.
Love Bregman.
And I'm telling you right now, like, to me, that's just a tremendous value in snake drafts. He's going right now as the player 71. So he's nearly, I mean, this was a guy who was going as a second round pick, and now he's going almost at 75. That's nuts. I mean, that's a tremendous value.
Yeah.
Still a good ballpark, still a good offense, still plenty of lineup protection. I think Alex Bregman right now, and I understand the reasons why. I understand people also have a negative connotation with him and many of the Astros still. I don't care. This is about winning. This is about productivity, and Alex Bregman's too good to pass up. So I want him, and I love the cost I'm getting him at. So who's a must-have guy at third base for you?
Just quick, mine is Riley, but to Bregman, I'm with that totally. The news is he's 100% again. And again, it's not, this isn't subjective. You could see it in the sprint speeds. If anyone wants to validate the health stuff, just look at the sprint speed. It was consistent always. And last year he was like in the 15th percentile because the hammy was no good. He also had a growth on his wrist that he said was bothering him when he threw. Both of those have been addressed. He wasn't
healthy.
Yeah, both of those have been addressed. He's an MVP. I love this, Joe. You and I just wanted to say
he's going behind Adalberto Mondesi right now.
That's
crazy. And if I had hair, I would pull it out, but I don't.
Dude, all of his underlying metrics, all of the stats that you'd want to see be good if you were trying to pitch, again, a narrative of health, were all good. All the discipline, all the patience, all the chase metrics. Swinging strike rate was fine. Alex Bregman is good to go. My argument can be very quick again because it's the Bobby Dalback, Alonso argument for Austin Riley. But Austin Riley is in the next phase of it. At the end of last year, not this past one, the year before, we saw the correction. And people said, wow, if this guy could keep up these gains that we see in the rolling chart, we could be talking about a 290, the same way I spoke about Pete Alonso. We could be talking about a 290 average and 38 home runs and 230 combined runs and ribbies. And that's what you got because he exchanged Ks for contact. So Austin Riley is an absolute beast at a position I think is very deep. The people I've met that don't like Bregman, if you don't like Riley, I don't know what you're doing at third base because I just don't think it's very deep. So those are really the guys I totally have circled this year. If it's not Bregman, it's Riley. Riley is expensive. I get it. But you could look what you got last year.
Tremendous talent. And another fine talent in the minor leagues with a track record that you could buy in on. I think everybody right now is just waiting for the Braves to make a Freeman decision. I think and I do think eventually he comes back. I think that would be tragic if he left there. I want that guy to finish his career with the Braves. That would be so stupid.
As a Mets fan, good for you.
Yeah, me too. Look, I mean, I still love Chipper Jones, even though he made my childhood miserable. Just got nothing but respect for that guy.
That was crazy what he did. That was outlandish.
So good. And he names his kid Shay on top of it.
I love the troll, John.
Like the trolling of it is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So if Riley's your guy, who's your bust?
You actually mentioned before, and it'd be Anthony Rendon. And this is, again, it's just an expectation of power. Mm-hmm. We see the spike in 2019, which again now is giving us enough data since we've seen a lot of power spikes in 2019. And the people that haven't rebounded in 20 or 2021 are just, that's at the center of what I'm worried about. So it's a cost thing. You made a few of the really good arguments for him before. He's going to be surrounded by all the talent in the world.
But it's the games. I know you're the more extreme the discount, the more intrigued I am.
Yeah.
But it's tough, especially in the head-to-head formats of any kind, whether it be roto or points. Yeah. It's tough when you miss a guy for extended periods of time.
And
like if he gives you a good 100 games, I'll take the stats at a
Yeah.
discount. But it's tough, man, in head-to-head. The guy for me that's a bust is Johan Mankata. Look, I know he had a great 2019, but the rest of his entire career is underwhelming. I've had it. I'm over it. Look, I've heard a lot of insider baseball people tell me the same thing. Like, as a guy, his commitment level sometimes is questionable. And I just... Enough already. He's had enough time here at the big league level to show you he could be a star, and he keeps living off 2019. And 2020 was terrible. Last year was just okay. Like, he's just okay. And I think people still draft him thinking there's this massive upside, and I just don't think he's got that gear. For me, when it comes to sleepers, Alec Baume, I think, is that guy. that it's time to buy back in on the cheap and
All
see.
right.
And if he struggles, okay, like you said, you cut him and move on. But he is going so cheap right now. Once again, you go all the way down third baseman number 27. I mean, Heimer Candelario's going over him. Yeah, Eduardo Escobar is going over him. Guys with questionable, even Josh Donaldson, another guy who hardly ever plays games. I just look at him as a young player who struggled mightily, who I'm willing to give a second chance to because it's free to find out. And I always like those guys. But who's your sleeper right now? Actually, same range I see, too.
Yeah, you actually just mentioned him. It's Candelario, and if I hadn't gone that way, I would have gone Baume. I want to see it, and I'm afraid once we see it, it'll be really good, and the boat will have been gone already. So it's funny, I'm missing on Baume here, knowing that the payoff could hurt me. It could be to my detriment, because I was high on him last year. I'm going to go with the player who has the third highest line drive rate in the major leagues since 2020 in Heimer Candelario. Get out that bowl again in the scooper, Joe. It's time for some more vanilla. I hope you eat your dinner.
Stats are stats, bro.
He does
stats
it.
Are stats.
Yeah, I guess I've really just totally validated, or at least my own, like I'm willing to stand on the shoulders of my own work with this boring team stuff because Candelario is going to hit at the top of the lineup. You're getting line drives. He's a massively good contact hitter. The average is there. You'll get some counting stats. He's going to hit you a couple home runs. He just won't hurt you,
Mm-hmm. All right, who is your salary cap value guy at third base?
It's Ryan McMahon. I'm kind of surprised. He's actually lost steam in the industry. I think it fits what you mentioned before. We were talking about another Rocky. People build up these tremendous, almost unattainable ceilings for Rockies prospects because cores, and they're people. And McMahon has been good, and you get steals, you get average, you get some power, and man, I'm not sure. This may be a double-edged sword with Story not re-signed, at least as of yet. There is going to be a vacuum in the front of that lineup. Someone's got to hit there. And we saw Brian Reynolds go for 90 and 90 with the Pirates. I don't think the Rockies will be that bad. I do happen to like Connor Joe. I do like Charlie Blackmon to come back. I think there's something with Toppy if he gets on the run. So, they've got pieces there. So, yeah, probably be Ryan Mack. Again, he just kind of fills in all the boxes, and you get multiple position eligibility, which allows you a lot of freedom. And again, he's balanced. So if you lose somebody, he can almost step in for anybody, right? And I think that's what I'm looking for at that stage in drafts.
All right, the guy for me is Brian Hayes. Gives you some speed, gives you some pop.
Yes.
Makes good contact, which I really like too. Injuries just kind of crushed him last year. I think this is a player to still be very enthusiastic about. And once again, same thing we can come back to, right? There's great value on the bad teams. Yep. Brian Hayes is another one of those guys. And we really haven't seen the best of him yet. And I think a healthy season would be, really at the end of the day, a tremendous value because he's going right now. Brian Hayes is the 14th third baseman off the board. So you're talking about a guy who's more or less a corner guy. And I think as a corner guy is exactly where you want to draft him as.
Yeah.
Not your starting third baseman, but as a corner guy, he's got upside, but a nice floor of batting average, runs, stolen bases, RBI, power, everything you want. And a little everything goes a long way in those roto formats. Let's run through catcher right here. Yeah. We're going to run through them fast. I'll give you my guys, and then we're going to talk about John's. My must-have guy is Dalton Varsho because he plays every day. That's what I want, and he can hit. My bust is Keibert Ruiz. I think people are going to be just a little too enthusiastic about him. Instead, my late sleeper is Joey Bart. I think I'd rather take a shot on him later. And then my salary cap value is Wilson Contreras because I think people will look at Chicago, once again, pass on Chicago, be down on Chicago, but those people are going to overpay for some of the other high-end catchers. Contreras is going to give you probably 15, 20 home runs and probably, a 260 average, and he'll be just fine. And I think if you're trying to lock in just dependability at the catcher spot in terms of productivity, I think you could do worse than Contreras. So let's start with who's your must-have guy at catcher, John?
All right, well, we're simpatico again on the must. It's Dalton Varsho. And this is funny, Joe. This is something you'll probably pick up on immediately, but not everyone will. Why do I like Dalton Varsho? He's the only catcher with a Steamer 600. And some people say, what do you mean? Steamer only projects 450 for catchers. Dalton Varsho gets a 600. Because of the outfield play. Yep. Okay, so that's why it's important that he has a Steamer 600. So the Steamer 600 now, let me expand, Joe. 255, 24 home runs, 11 steals, 75 and 78. You can ignore that.
It's just more counting stats at the end of the day.
So check this out. Here's an outfielder that is going to bat 245 with 23 and 13, the same pretty much stuff. He goes at 215. That's Laureano. Another outfielder, 254, 24 and 11, the same, goes at 180. That's Michael Conforto. What if I told you there's an outfielder projected for 258, 23 and 13? Varsho was 255, 24, 11. This outfielder is 258, 23 and 13. He's going in the 6th round. That's Randy Arozarena. He has identical steamer projections to Dalton Varsho. Now, that doesn't mean what, I don't know what's going to happen, but there's some perspective for people. It's just a little something to nibble on. As I was doing this exercise, I was like, wow, man, that kind of makes Varsho kind of valuable, because if they both hit their median projection, Varsho is a Arozarena later at the C. So don't come at me with why he's very highly valued. That's it in a nutshell. The rest of it is very easy. For me, Vasquez is my bust. I don't think there's any pop. We saw the bottom of the hitting skills. I'm betting the under on 10 home runs. My sleeper is Omar Navis. I think for ADP 257, he's going to play every, and I shouldn't say every day. He gets the lion's share of plate appearances, which we want. He has very good plate skills, and he has a 266 career batting average. That's including a dismal 176 outlier in 2020. So I think he's going to check the boxes. You mentioned the environment in Milwaukee is very good. The surrounding context should be there. He'll also benefit from not having to hit in front of a pitcher sometimes. So I think he gets a little bit of boost, and I think Narvaez will pay the bills, maybe a little bit of boring. I think your value, even though we mentioned before, values don't have to be cheap necessarily. To me, it's Will Smith. And my reason is, I believe Will Smith should have a steamer 600. I think he's one of the better hitters on that team. Even though it's the Dodgers, I believe they will find a spot for him to hit on days off. Meaning, I don't think there is...
that DH is coming, baby.
Yeah,
whether baseball is coming, we don't know right now. But the DH is coming whenever it comes back.
But what does that mean to people looking to apply it? You got to have Will Smith in there for 6 days a week. Even if it's 5 days catching, I believe it's 1.5 days hitting, right? So I believe it's 30. He's playing 13 out of 14 days is what I mean for people. So give me all the Will Smith. I think it's almost impossible to overvalue him, because I think he could be better than, Sal Perez this year. And that was it. That was the value. So I got through it pretty quickly. Not bad. 2 million words or less. Bad. Those are my catchers.
He is John Laghezza. You can follow him on the Twitter machine at MLB Moving AVG. Again, that's MLB Moving Average. Check out his work over at the Mayo Media Network. He's a great follow on Twitter in terms of stats and evaluation and stuff like that. And he's one hell of a nice guy with a great energy and passion for the game, which is so appreciated here. John, I can't thank you enough for joining us today and giving us your time. Tell everybody what else you got going on right now. Yeah,
right now it's a lot of the new video work I've been trying. There's so much good content out there. I really want to be different. I know I'm kind of a unique character, but my view of analysis going forward is going to be using these stock indicators to find trend indication. So if you're into any of the kind of granular stuff I was talking about, check out Cork Stats on Mayo Media Network or Cork Stats on YouTube itself. I have 2 different channels, or the Cork Stats podcast. I just had Matt Modica on. We've been deemed the Roto Soprano. So if you're really into this kind of, if you're into this kind of, Cadillac meets baseball, like, Brooklyn kind of barrel thing. I'm like,
these are my people. These are my people. Matty Mo's my people.
Yeah. Next week we'll be talking vanilla and Cadillac versus Lincoln. I wonder who gets that one. Gotta like the Lincoln got more room for your legs, more leg room.
My dad was a Cadillac guy, though. I don't know. I might get banished from the family.
Dude, you wanna boil blood on the holidays. Forget politics. It's Cadillac versus Lincoln.
John, it was so much fun talking. Hopefully everybody took a lot out of the show today. I'm sure they did, in terms of looking at the infield. A lot of great stats, a lot of great knowledge dropped today. And don't forget, for more discussions, head over to our Discord channel at fantasypros.com/chat and become a premium subscriber and get access to dozens of extra channels and the AMAs, the stages where we talk about your team. You come up and literally you and I will talk about your fantasy problems, or maybe real life problems. I don't know, but you can't find out. Go join for free and check it out at fantasypros.com/chat. And don't forget about our draft assistant with Sync at fantasypros.com/draftwizard. It syncs up to Yahoo, ESPN, CBS. It's only for our MVP and Hall of Fame subscribers can access it. So please subscribe today if you haven't already. Check out the draft assistant at fantasypros.com/draftwizard. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For John Laghezza, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out our featured videos. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Fantasy Pros, so you can get the latest news and updates to give you the edge you need in your fantasy league.